Cruikshank. District 2 Chuviak Eagle River is present. Vice Chair S.J. Klein.
Hi, I'm present.
Perfect. Ali Hartman, absent. Diana Evans, District 4 Midtown Anchorage.
I'm here.
Thank you. Dave Weber, District 5 East Anchorage.
Here.
Thank you. Nancy Pease, District 6 South Anchorage.
Here.
Thank you. Kathleen McArdle, Anchorage Chamber of Commerce. Absent. Chuck Homan, Chuviak Eagle River Chamber of Commerce. Absent. Bob French, Federation Community Councils.
Here.
Thank you, Bob. Jeff Ron, Planning and Zoning Commission, absent. And John Scudder, Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson.
Here.
Glad to see you back, John.
Thank you.
And with that, we've established quorum. Move to public participation announcement or public participation and virtual participation guidelines. Welcome to the AMATS Community Advisory Committee meeting. Public comments are welcome and encouraged, with 3 minutes given to each speaker. After the committee discusses each item, members of the public will be invited to comment. Housekeeping item. For virtual attendees, please keep your cameras off unless speaking. For those attending by phone, please press *6 to mute or unmute yourself. AMATS committee meetings are audio recorded and posted on the AMATS YouTube page. And there's a YouTube link if you have the agenda. And so the next one is approval of the agenda. And it sounded like we had a last minute item that, Christine, do you have some additional context?
Yeah, if we just have the initial first and second for approval, then I'll make the comments and then somebody can move to amend.
Sure.
This is SJ. I'd be happy to make a motion. Oh, yeah, this is SJ. I'll move to, I'll start with the motion to approve the agenda.
Yep. So SJ, you're making the motion to approve the agenda. Can I get a second?
Sure.
I'll second, John.
Perfect. We're in
Okay.
discussion
Great.
or amendments.
Thank you, Matt. I would like to move to amend the agenda and add an item 6, I guess that would be F, to consider the letter regarding HSIP priorities that I forwarded to, or that Christine forwarded to us all today. Just for background,
So hold on,
guess
we're
it's
just,
a motion.
I'm not trying to cut
Sorry.
you off, but we got a motion of the amendment. Can I get a second for the amendment?
Can I make a
Yep.
correction real quick?
Yes.
Through the chairs, it would be 5B because you would be taking action on that. So not 6F, but it would be 5B.
Oh. My apologies, 5B. Yes, that's fine. Yeah, so change my amendment to add a 5B to the agenda today.
Perfect. And going to, I think that was Bob French that seconded. Friendly amendment accepted. Was that not Bob?
John Scudder.
John. Okay. John, is that friendly amendment good with you?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. So now we're in discussion. SJ, you have the floor.
Sure. Just that I had, I guess the issue is just that I had timely sent the letter to Christine to be able to get posted for the agenda a week ago, and Christine forwarded it, and I guess staff is willing to let us consider the letter just because it was timely sent in. So.
Do we have any other comments or discussion? And just to confirm, Christine, SJ did everything right. He sent it in an advance notice, so no fault to himself. But we don't have any notice issues by taking action.
Correct. Yep, that was just, I missed that email and it was sent in a timely manner. So we'd like to get it on your agenda.
Perfect. Okay, are there any objections to adding it to the agenda? Hearing no objections, it's added to the agenda. So now Are there any objections to approving the agenda as amended? Hearing no objections, the agenda is amended. And next, we'll move to approval of previous meeting minutes. So the 2/10/26 minutes were sent out. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
This is Nancy. I move to approve the meeting minutes.
February. Perfect. Thank you, Nancy. Can I get a second? Can I get a second to approve the February 10th CAC minutes?
I'll
Kathleen
second.
McCardle can approve, or John.
Okay, that sounds like, yeah, everybody jumped on that
Second.
one. So I think I heard, oh gosh, John. I think I heard John jumped in there right away. Perfect. Do we have any corrections? Hearing none, are there any objections to approving the February minutes? Hearing no objections, the February minutes are approved.
And through the chair, Matt, can I recognize that both Kathleen McCardle and Chuck Holman have now entered the meeting?
Perfect. Thank you. Next, we'll move to 5 action items. And so we'll start with item brief of subcommittee autonomy. And I saw that staff had a letter provided to the committee. I was trying to find it. Well, here,
It's,
Kristen, yeah. Oh, perfect.
I can
Thank
brief you if you'd like.
please.
And then I think Aaron's going to take over a little bit, but this, we've always been kind of discussing what actions the committee can and can't do on their own. Traditionally, everything had gone through the TAC and the PC. We now have a practice where if you're submitting comments on a project or plan that's out for public review, that can go directly to the project team. But the policy committee, as we were reviewing a letter that the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee had written at their, and it was going through their April meeting, they asked us for a little bit more clarification on what subcommittees could do with or without it going directly through to the PC. And so we're trying to outline those and bring them back for consideration to the policy committee, but we wanted to bring it to the subcommittees for their review and recommendations as well. And so staff is working on trying to outline those. I think Aaron is going to pull up a little decision tree that we have going just to kind of guide the conversation, and you can give us your feedback on that and any other thoughts that you have.
Perfect.
Hey, everybody. So, yes, we had met as staff to kind of go over this because, you know, when we actually got into it, it became a little more complicated than it seemed, or I think we were making it more complicated than it needed to be. And so staff met internally and we kind of came up with a decision tree that you see hopefully in front of you. And we wanted to keep it really simple, really basic for everybody, to give the committees more kind of autonomy on what they send without having to go through the policy committee. You know, the first thing we wanted to ask is there an open public comment period right now? Because if there is an open public comment period, then that should give the committees the ability to submit their comments in without having to go to the policy committee for approval, mostly because of time and because it's actually an open public comment period. So that's a pretty easy one there. But then we got into what if it's not an open public comment period and it's just on a continuing item like Vision Zero or policy guidance, other things like that. That became a little more complicated, but what we settled on and what we're recommending is if the communication is going to elected officials or federal staff, either appointed, elected, or just regular federal staff, those kind of letters, those kind of communications have to go to the policy committee for approval. So what's an example there? The mayor of Anchorage, the governor of Alaska, the secretary of transportation for US DOT. Those are examples of communications that have to go to the policy committee for approval before they get sent out. If you don't have elected officials or any federal officials on there, then we go to our next decision, which was, are those elected or federal individuals on the CC list? There's a missing thing here, but it's the CC. So are they included on the CC? For example, the BPAC letter was sent to the regional director of DOT, who's an appointed position, and the Muni traffic engineer, who are appointed positions. So you're good there. But on the CC list, it had assembly members and the mayor of Anchorage. So then it became, okay, those kind of communications again have to go to the policy committee because you're still including that kind of higher level threshold of individuals on there. If you don't have anybody elected official or a federal person on either the 2 or the CC, then the committee is free to send out that communication without having to go through the policy committee. A couple of notes here is all communication will have to come from AMAT staff. That is what we're recommending. And AMAT staff will have to review that communication before it goes out. Because a couple of things, you can't commit AMATs to funding decisions in your communication. That is a policy committee level decision. You can't use defamatory language. We all know that, but we just have to put that out there. You can't make policy decisions for AMATs. You can recommend them to the policy committee, but you can't send a letter to the regional director of DOT and say AMATs is committing to X, Y, and Z policy without the policy committee reviewing and approving it. And if it's a gray area, staff is going to defer sending it to the TAC and policy committee for decision until that decision is made, and then we can move forward in the future and it's not a gray area anymore. So we wanted to bring this forward to see if you guys had any comments. I know we didn't send this out beforehand, but we were kind of finishing it up on our end. And we're not planning on bringing this back to the TAC and PC until July at this point. So there's time for additional communication if you guys want like a special meeting to sit down and talk through this. But if this kind of goes forward, it will require a change to the committee bylaws as well. So happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So, Aaron, just for clarification, on the background completely lines out with you, but on the action requested, AMAT staff requests the Community Advisory Committee to review the committee bylaws and provide suggestions for policy defining the types of items and process that the subcommittees may follow. So you just proposed a workflow for sending out items. So I'm just, I guess I'm also seeing a second narrative here in the action requested right there. Committee bylaws and provide suggestions for policy defining types of items or the process. Okay, so basically we're commenting on what staff is proposing to the policy committee. But ultimately, if the policy committee adopts this workflow, we have to amend our bylaws, or will they automatically be changed if they're not conforming to the policy committees?
We'll have to do, we're going to basically would have to do them at the same time because right now your bylaws outline what you can and can't do in terms of what you can and can't send or take action on without the policy committee approval. So we would have to update the bylaws based on whatever comes from either this decision tree or some other whatever is ultimately approved by the policy committee. The reason we're presenting this decision tree to you guys today is because this is our first stab at it by staff. And we want to see if we're heading in the right direction or if there is some red flags that we missed that you guys can think of that we may not have thought of.
Got it. So really the focus is on this workflow right here and recommendation comments for this workflow. And then ultimately what comes of this workflow based off of the policy committee potentially adopting it, then will trigger the revising of our bylaws to align with what's adopted.
Yeah, that's one element. I think also the bylaws are on the agenda today because if there is anything else that you guys see, because there's some aspects of the bylaws that aren't related to this decision tree, that if you guys have comments, questions, concerns, or anything, because, you know, we like to periodically update the bylaws or make sure that they're, you know, fresh. So if you guys have any comments on those, we would take those today as well.
Good to go. FJ?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Aaron, for the presentation. I guess my, am I muted? Nope, I'm not. Okay. I guess my my first question is just to clarify the intent of this. This is basically to define official communications of the CAC and who we can communicate to. and whether we are communicating as the CAC or as AMATs. Is that kind of what you're trying to clarify?
No, because when you communicate as CAC, you're part of AMAT, so there's no distinction there between that. What this is trying to define is what you as the CAC can send out, what kind of communications you can do as a committee without having to go to the policy committee for prior approval or approval of that communication. So you can send it out directly without having to go through the TAC and PC.
Diana?
Unmuted now. So I read through the bylaws really quickly, and one thing I noticed under the membership of our committee, it talks about a 9-year maximum term, and I just was wondering, is AMAT, do they track our terms to know when we are not eligible anymore? And related to that, it says that it should be staggered so that not everyone leaves at the same time. So I was just curious about that.
Yes, we are tracking it. Christine, if you want to talk more on this, please do.
Yeah, we are trying to track this better. I think we haven't done a good job in the past. It's kind of just organically, that 9-year limit has kind of made it where people come and go as they please, and they've just kind of been within that 9-year limit anyway. But we are trying to track that better now moving forward and have it all in one place. So between the 3 subcommittees, we can organize membership and interim limits.
Thank you. Just looking to see if I have any other. So I guess I don't know if there's a clear way of doing this, but I love seeing the grassroots approach with getting new committee members. So community councils have just been a great way for grassroots community involvement. I sure like if we have some type of way to tie community councils to giving recommendations for candidates to be approved by the policy committee. So just talking about timeline, Christine or Aaron. So it sounds like in the very near future, we're going to have a bylaws amendment. If there is specific changes of members that wish to propose changes, because I'm assuming that they would have to have, I can't remember the notice requirements for bylaw amendments. Is there any idea of timeline how committee members would potentially bring potential amendments forward?
For the bylaws, we could probably treat this as more of an introduction and then bring that up in the July meeting. If we're not coming back to the technical advisory and policy committee on kind of the essence of this decision tree, the bylaws will come in after that. So we could table that discussion, take any comment back and forth right now, but if for formal recommendations, we could put that on the July meeting and then ask for committees to submit those a week prior to posting so that you could all see.
And I'm guessing you freshly read the bylaws. I just literally skimmed through them. Is there any specific notice requirements that bylaw amendments have to be posted?
No, for amendments to the bylaws. No, this would.
Just 2/3. Oh yeah, the bylaws may be amended by a 2/3 vote of those present, provided a quorum is present, and all committee members have been previously notified the intent to amend the bylaws. The bylaws amendments are subject to ratification. So as long as we meet our notice requirements, and we have a 2/3 majority, we can amend bylaws.
Yeah, I think the bylaws, we flagged them just in this discussion because the first part of the bylaws kind of, there's an A, B, C, D, and that kind of outlines what you should be focused on, what you can and can't do. And we assume that that is probably where whatever comes out of this decision tree, that those things would be specified in the bylaws.
Go ahead, Diana.
Yeah, and I had another question. Is there any intent that all of the AMAT subcommittees have generally the same bylaws, or is that not a consideration?
They do basically have the same bylaws except for committee makeup.
But the procedure for actually, selecting new members and all that, that should be the same, or is that the only place that it would vary?
That would probably be where it would vary, yes, because some, like on the Freight Advisory Committee, those are more appointed by the specific seats that they represent. But the same in this committee and in the Bicycle Committee, there are particular seats that are appointed by those organizations if they have a seat on the committee. So we would just be gathering feedback from all the different committees and trying to compile that together.
I guess it might be good if you take a look and make sure and flag any areas that we specifically would be changed or would be eligible to change or not, so we don't start thinking about changing something that it needs to be consistent with the other committees.
No, that's a great point, Diana. I guess I would assume unless there's a specific policy committee rule that the bylaws relatively are amendable. But that brings a very valid point, is there are certain portions of the bylaws we can't touch. Yeah. And so, Aaron, I did have one kind of looking at your workflow. I think you got a very well thought out process when it's not a public comment period. Because I think definitely writing to public officials, especially just as you said, hypothetically, if there's communication coming from the CAC that is AMATs, it might not be the policy committee. So I do appreciate your routing on it's outside of a public comment period. I do have concerns about if it is a public comment period. I think striving for a harmonious relationship is important, and optics do matter. And so when we have a subcommittee that could potentially adopt something in a public comment period that could be inflammatory, not having any blinds or censors if the policy committee didn't, because I mean, what I'm hearing is if it's in a public comment period, the mayor, the governor, all types of public officials could be CC'd or sent to.
Yeah, I mean, yes. It's a
Yeah.
public comment period, so it's a lot more flexible than anything else. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't include those individuals on there as you're providing it as part of the public comment period. And in terms of inflammatory language, well, that's why we commented, you can't put anything in there that's defamatory. And everything has to be reviewed by AMAT staff before it goes out. So it's not like something will slip through the cracks. That's a hugely problematic language issue. I don't see that as a problem. I trust the subcommittees to do what's right.
I would just see that you have inconsistency of you're using the public comment period as the justification to have whatever communications, and you're trusting the subcommittees right there. But yet, if there's not a public comment period, but there's an issue that could be serious that the subcommittee wants to make note of or communicate with, it seems like a double-edged standard with your workflow.
Not at all. Public comment periods are open comment periods, typically on projects. Very, very little is done for like policy guidance, but there's some. Like, for example, DOT and PF has a policy for tribal consultation out right now, and they're asking for public comments on that. The subcommittees under this would be free to send comments in on that policy without having to go to the policy committee. Because those comments are adjudicated through a process, it's open and fair for the subcommittees to be sending those comments in without having to go to the policy committee. I mean, if you want, we can go ahead and add a little proviso in here that you can't send comments to elected officials or federal officials either, even if a public comment period is open.
That might be that could be a good route. Yeah, I don't know. I just think I think your workflow on outside of public comment right there seems like a very logical workflow. I think there should just be some extra steps in a public comment period. But that's just my
the
thought.
reality is if that's the way that we want to do it, then you're probably never going to get comments submitted because there is not enough time for comment periods for you as a subcommittee to meet and then to have it go through the TAC and policy committee for final approval before it's sent out. So just keep that in mind.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
And
Aaron,
if there's a
sorry.
documented, 1 second, SJ. So if there's a documented email that's for all public comments, absolutely it could be sent to that. But it's when we start going outside of the designated spot for public comments that I would put in question. SJ?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Aaron, I really appreciate kind of the distinction and was going to point out just that. I mean, Matt and other commission members, when there is a public comment period, we have a limited amount of time to speak to it and to take action. And those comments become part of the public record when we submit them to a project, whatever project that is. And so being, there's no reason why we can't distribute those comments to elected officials. If it's the CAC's comment on, project A, whether it's Safer Seward or Pell or, or something like this that Aaron mentioned. So, I mean, this gives us a little more flexibility to actually make that comment. And it just recognizes the fact that when comment is made for a project during a public comment period, those comments are made public. And so, there's no real reason to restrict us from sending it to other elected officials when we decide and approve those comments. So I actually agree with the decision tree that they're proposing there.
Good to go. Do we have any other comments?
One other thing that I guess
Nancy?
just
Go ahead.
Because just because we are considering changes to the bylaws, obviously we're not going to be able to notice them. There's not notice to make any changes today, but yeah, I know I for one would want to chew through the bylaws a little deeper. At first blush, I don't really see anything worth changing, but that's just on a skim. So I assume you want us to just submit those proposed changes to the bylaws to staff, and then they'll get distributed to the commission for notice.
So similar workflow. I think Christine, that's what we were saying is, so unless somewhere in this meeting we have a sooner meeting, our next scheduled is it June or is it July?
July.
But after this meeting, we'd have some type of notice sent to review the bylaws, to send them to Christine. And then once we do the notice of the agenda, it would include all of the potential bylaw amendments. So we would have, but the intent is just really to give everybody time to comb through the bylaws and provide some recommendations through it and just not on the spot right here. Does that align to, is there any changes you wanted to do with that process, Christine?
No, that seems good. Yeah, I mean, people could start reviewing them now. I can review it and outline some of the things from Diana Evans, making sure the things that you wouldn't want to change or aren't allowed to change. But once this decision tree process has gone through, we can update that part as well. And then for your next meeting, when we're posting the agenda, it would also have everybody's suggested edits so that you all could see those edits and then come prepared to take action.
Perfect. Nancy?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say I agree with SJ that when the public and with the proposed distribution for comments submitted during a public comment period, I think elected officials, if it's a big consequential or high profile project, they're looking at the public comment record and they're looking at the breadth of public comments and the depth. And if we can get our comments straight to them, I think we give a certain depth that is important to those elected leaders. And again, they're expecting comments, so we should send ours straight to them or, CC them.
Perfect. Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else wishing to speak about the upcoming bylaw changes or mention anything in the bylaws right now or the proposed workflow?
This is SJ. Just one last thing, I guess, just because it is under action items on our agenda. There's no action we're taking right now. Is that correct? We're just preparing to take action. Just to be clear.
The way I guess was staff were gathering comments right there, and so when I guess there was no hard actionable item other than SJ, like you and Nancy saying that you support it as is. It's providing feedback to staff to move forward with recommendations to the policy committee.
Yeah, we can just mention what we heard, or if you want to be official and say this is what the CAC recommends, then yes, you could, of all the things committee members made, you could decide what you want to submit as your recommendations officially.
I would actually request, Christine, if you would, or Aaron, if you could send that decision tree out for us to kind of study a little closer. And we can provide comment on that offline as well as individuals. I believe that would be helpful.
Is that, Christine, is that doable to send out this work tree?
I believe so, unless Aaron tells me no.
Yeah, we're kind of finalizing the tree, so it may not be right away, but I just want to remind everybody that you can't really submit comments as individuals on the CAC. You would have to do it as a group. So you would have to do it either at this meeting, which I know we didn't get it to you in time, or you'd have to wait to the next meeting or hold a special meeting. So it could be one of those things that you review it, you have comments, you provide it to Christine, and we just bring it back as part of the July meeting and have that discussion then.
That's a great point. John, you had your hand up?
Yes, I've been thinking a little bit more about the 9-year term limit for someone that serves like in our role as planners at JBear. It's normal to work a 20-year career, and there's currently 3 in our office, which one is an unmanned position. So it's unlikely, but the potential of someone needing to serve over 9 years would exist to have anybody of knowledge of the planning requirements for the installation. I want to think about this a little bit more, but it's in our role, it could be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So speaking to the longer term limits. Any other comments? So I did like Aaron's.
I feel like oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, SJ.
Oh, just to kind of jump on that last comment. I mean, one thing to consider maybe would be a mechanism by which we can extend term limits for members. You know, in a special case or something like that.
No, it's a good idea. A special provision.
That sounds
So
good.
I I liked what Aaron said is if we have comments on this workflow, we can send it in after this meeting, and then in the our next upcoming CAC meeting, we could have all those comments potentially submitted, and we can take official action on supporting the workflow. So not hearing any issues with that. Yeah, I think that was a good idea, Aaron. Thank you. Okay, and next, we'll move to
this
members.
is Chuck Holman.
Go ahead, Chuck.
In answer to John's question, I believe I read in the bylaws there that the policy committee can extend the 9-year term. They have that option already, I believe, in the bylaws, but I'm no expert at it, but I thought I read that in there.
Nope, it's good info. So it sounds like there is a provision that if the policy committee does want to extend a specific member, they have. Just curious, Chuck, when you read those, or maybe Aaron or Christine knows this, is there a specific limitation of the policy committee extending the terms?
I would have to look closely at them again. I don't believe there would be a limit for them. Most of it's appointed, it comes around back to say appointed by the policy committee.
Yeah, there's no real limit to what the policy committee can do to the bylaws and the committee members themselves of how long they stay on. It's just typically, or that 9-year limit is really for the groups or the public members or the representatives from the district and stuff that we want to make sure that we rotate through when there are, viable options out there for other individuals to participate. If it's an agency like J-Bear or the Muni or some other groups that have more limited and constrained people that can attend, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't bring the recommendation forward to the policy committee to extend how long they stay on the committee. So I think there's an option there.
Thank you, Aaron. Do we have any other committee comments before we open it up to the public? Hearing none, opening it up to, are there any public member comments? Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move to 5B. SJ had submitted a HSIP letter. Can I get a
Hi, thank you, Matt.
Can I get a motion to approve? We'll start with.
Sure, this is SJ. I'll move to approve the proposed letter dated April 28th that was sent around by email and that they're putting up on the screen right now.
Perfect. Can I get a second?
Bob Frenchel, second.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so we are now in discussion. SJ, do you want to lead us in?
Sure, I'll tee this one up. For members that aren't familiar with what has happened with the HSIP programming recently, a number of projects got removed without explanation by the state from the HSIP, and then a handful of them have been returned. Our neighborhood, Fairview, is kind of up in arms over this pedestrian barrier that got kind of put into the HSIP, while other HSIP projects that would have kind of improved life in the neighborhood have not been added back in or are on a longer term programming. And so yeah, the comments were basically to kind of recognize that some projects have been returned and that we believe that other projects, especially lane reductions, need to be prioritized. It's a letter to the policy committee from our committee. And then also just kind of calls out the kind of failures that pedestrian barriers really represent in dense urban environments that include heavy pedestrian usage. So.
we have any other general comments?
Yes, this is Nancy. I have, are we entering discussion?
Yep, we're in discussion. So we have a first and second. So this is where discussion or amendments concur.
Great. SJ, I was wondering if we could clarify your intent under the first category, or the first page, last paragraph. There are two things here, I guess. One is it says we are also very concerned that the adjacent intersections are more dangerous now, since, for example, 2 pedestrians were killed on Minnesota and Northern Lights in 2025 alone. I guess I'm a little hesitant to declare that the intersections are more dangerous without knowing the circumstances of those pedestrians' deaths. But I think I would be more comfortable saying this has not resolved pedestrian safety, since, for example, 2 pedestrians were killed.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate change. So we could wordsmith that a little bit better. Yeah, my intent was that, kind of the pedestrian barrier on Minnesota was intended to kind of stop pedestrian deaths, or was proposed in reaction to pedestrian deaths and strikings of pedestrians, and has clearly not ended those. So yeah,
Okay.
I think that's fabulous wording, definitely.
All right, and then one more possible change. The paragraph continues, the safety funds for this project would have been better spent improving the intersections for pedestrians rather than making it more difficult to walk. We should not repeat this mistake on Fifth Avenue and other corridors within neighborhoods. So are you specifically saying you would, are you asking the committee to oppose the pedestrian median barrier? And if so, whatever action you're actually doing, I think I'd like it to be more specific than we should not repeat this mistake. And then whatever it is, the action, move that up to the, to the top of the paragraph.
Okay, I'm tell you what, while there's other comments going on, I will propose, I'll start wordsmithing and see if I can retype that paragraph in a way that that comports with both of your suggestions, so that I can propose an amendment.
Yeah, and you kind of get at it. You say they're not acceptable and should be reconsidered, but I'm wondering if you're saying something, a little more specific, like they should be a last resort, or yeah, are you really, you're opposing them, I think.
Yeah,
so anyway,
absolutely.
Just would like some clarification.
Aaron?
Okay, I will, I'll write something up real quick and put it in front of everybody in the chat as a proposed amendment to the letter.
Okay, great.
Aaron?
Yeah, a couple of things. One about process, just for us, we need to ensure that we ask for public comment before we do motions on action items. So I believe you did a motion and a second on this. So just keep that in mind as we move forward, unless I misheard you.
I did do a motion. So Aaron, just remind me on process right there. So if we're discussing an actionable item, don't we need a motion and a second? Well, we can't. That's right. We need to have public comment before we can make a final vote. So remind me, do we just have general discussion without a motion and a second on it?
Yes. So what you do is you typically start with introduction of the item. So in this case, SJ speaks on the item and why he's bringing it forward. And then you have committee discussion where you can say, well, what about this? What does this mean? Why did you do this here? That kind of stuff. General discussion, not we want to change this here. We want to do that. Then you go to public comment and say, does anybody have any comments on this? Because those public comments can feed into any decision that you make later. Once public comment is done, you close it, and then you get a motion for action or whatever you want to do with the second. Then you can make edits.
And just as a point of order, so far we are following that right now. We're still in just general discussion. So there is no action yet.
Didn't you guys do a motion and a second?
We did.
Yeah,
so
motion
I
and a second.
understand what you're saying, Aaron. Is so normally, so Aaron, a point made. I get exactly what you're saying. So normally you would have to have, if it's an actionable item, you'd make it. But with AMAT specifically, it's very important that we have the public comment ability right here. And so before we take any actionable item, We'll have a slightly different process of just general discussion of the item. The public has the ability to comment on the general discussion. Then we actually go into the motion, where the motion is not open to the public when we do our first, second discussion, amendments, and approval. Is that correct,
Yes,
Aaron?
because right now you've made a motion, so public comment period is done.
Yeah,
So
totally.
there is
Oh.
no opportunity for the public to comment. So what you need to do is have all of that before you even make a motion.
Understood. Okay, so SJ, you made this motion, and who seconded that motion? Do you guys mind withdrawing this motion? We can go back in a general discussion and make sure we have opportunity
Absolutely.
for public.
This is SJ. I guess, I mean, if we're going to follow Robert's rules right now, I would say then I move to table this motion until we have the opportunity for public discussion and to follow our normal standard of operations.
Okay,
This
so
is
if you're
Bob French.
tabling it,
I believe that I second that, so I will also follow on to SJ's.
so if we
motion
just
to
have a
table.
friendly, yeah, so if we just have our first and second friendly, we don't need to, SJ and Bob, you guys are both on board of pulling back this motion.
Correct.
Okay, good. So we don't need to overcomplicate this. So we're just back in general discussion. So there is no motion on the floor. We will be taking action right here, but we're going back to a general discussion. The committee members will be having the discussion, and then we will have an opportunity for the public to comment if they wish. Then we will take up action. So my apologies on messing that up there. Nancy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I had another question or point of discussion, which is the last substantive sentence in the letter. DOTPF should also make the chief engineer's lane directive analyses public through AMATS and posted on its website. So is this not, I mean, are they withholding it? I know I saw a copy of it through AMATS. So I think AMATS has it. Are you asking AMATS to post it on AMATS website? Or are you asking DOT to post it? And Aaron, is this something that DOT is withholding, or can we, I just need a little more information as to the status.
This is SJ. I'd be happy to speak to that as well. At the date which I submit the letter, the lane directive or the lane analysis had not yet been made public. It was still being held by DOT. I believe it's out now. I haven't seen it, but if Aaron wants to speak to that.
Yeah, so the lane reduction directive itself is publicly available. The individual analyses that get done for each road, as far as I know, is not publicly available at this time. So I guess I would need clarification on, do you want the directive or the analysis?
Yeah, thanks for that. This is SJ. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. It's actually the analysis that has been done and decisions and has been used for kind of decision making, but has not yet been made public yet. So,
Chuck?
Yeah, kind of following along with Nancy's comments on some of the language there, but the statement that pedestrian barriers are not an acceptable pedestrian safety improvement, I think that's pretty broad, and in some circumstances that is probably the best way to go. So I'm really not in agreement in making blanket statements like that. And Aaron in the past has said to remove personal, keep it professional, and using terms like cheese grater, creating a hostile environment is not professional. Being in a statement from this committee, so then the barrier, anyways, just the general tone of the letter, I think, needs to be a little more, needs to be cleaned up. So make those comments. Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. Do we have any other comments? The cheese grater language did catch my eye. You know, I think it'd be nice if we replaced it with it should be a welcoming corridor rather than erecting a concrete barrier. Sorry. The CAC encourages treatment that maintains Fifth Avenue as a safe and welcoming corridor while improving pedestrian comfort, visibility, and access across the roadway. I was trying to play with some other language right there. It seems like the letter, I guess my comment would be, the letter has definitely a lot of tone in it, demanding, what was it? I think there was a DOTPF needs to advance this project ASAP in 2026. The cheese grater, hostile environment. Like, I don't think the points you're trying to make are bad points, and I can understand the community council taking issue with them, but it definitely seems like I kind of echo what Chuck said, is I wish that the tone was not so quite so aggressive.
Mr. Chair, if I may too, I mean, just to speak to the timing issue, there is an undergrounding of utility poles scheduled, I believe, for 2026, or at least the money is programmed for 2026. And so the timing is really actually specific to that, because if they tear up the sidewalks and basically tear up the sidewalks and redo the curbs in the same place without kind of considering lane reductions that have been removed out of the HSIP, then we're basically paying to get these sidewalks done twice. And quite frankly, as a neighborhood, we feel that if the sidewalks get torn up and then put back into the same place that they were before, then we're going to be stuck with the same lane configuration for the next 20 years. So, I mean, the timing issue is something that that we do take very seriously. You know, I don't know how to, I guess I'm totally open to expressing that differently, you know, so that it's a little more tone neutral, but it's a very important issue.
Understood. Do we have any other committee members wishing to comment on what's in front of us?
This is Nancy. I think SJ, you just did express it clearly and gave the rationale. And I know that it make the letter a little longer, but if that could be spoken to in the letter, that would be the addition that would then avoid just, you know, but it would explain the imperative and the urgency.
Not hearing or seeing any other committee members with their hands up. We'll move to public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment on the letter regarding HSIP projects? Not hearing any members, making sure I go through both pages here. Not hearing any members of the public having any comment. So we'll move to action. Do I have a motion to approve the letter regarding HSIP projects?
Sure,
Diana?
this is SJ. Go ahead. I'll move that we approve the letter that we're discussing right now.
Diana? You're muted.
This is Nancy. I was hoping that would the maker of the motion like to speak to some of the changes we just discussed, and could those be part of the letter?
Absolutely. My intent is to start off with moving the letter and then to amend after this letter has moved to the floor. I believe that's the process we need to follow.
Correct. Yeah.
Does
So
that
point of
comport
order.
with-
Yes, exactly. Yep. So SJ moved to adopt. Do we have a second? Diana had called on. Oh, there we go. See, you're unmuted now.
Yeah, I'll second, but I did have a question too about the letter that I should have asked in the previous segment, but
So we're actually in discussion right now and you have the floor, so go ahead.
okay. So it said there was a HSIP project meeting for 4/22/26. So did anything in that meeting change what is said in the paragraph below with the bullets on the second page? Does that make sense?
Hi. It's Aaron. So I actually have some edits that I would recommend for this letter as well, just a technical. So I think this sentence here that said the AMAT's work session on HSIP is scheduled for blah, blah, blah. I think that can go away. I don't know that it is needed for this letter because you're speaking about HSIP program in general. I think it's just extra information we don't need at this point. Nothing has changed on the bullet points from the HSIP work session. I did want to point out that the Mountain View Drive safety improvements is actually underway. It received funding in FY25, and they're currently looking at getting a consultant on board for that project right now. So it doesn't fit within your bullets there because it did receive the funding. It just had the 27 funding moved because they were, or the 26 funding moved because they weren't going to need it at that point because they had gotten started late. So if you want to keep Mountain View Drive in there, you might want to mention, support for the project continuing to move forward or something.
Great, thank you for that. Mr. Chair, do we have, I guess, just to be clear, we have a second?
Yes, we're in discussion.
missed.
So if there's any
Okay,
technical spots, like Aaron gave some recommendations, this was where amendments would be proposed. And I would, the more we can keep the amendments, so when someone has amendment, if they can go through all their amendments, that would be always preferred to keep the meeting going. If they want to break apart them because they think there's a item that could have a bit more discussion, I understand that, but just want to, it's a lot easier if there's a bunch of small amendments that aren't going to have much, if there's simpler amendments, just to group them together. But yes, SJ, you have the floor if you wanted to make an amendment.
Oh, I'm just gathering amendments right now. I'm just listening at the moment and trying to just make sure I don't lose any of kind of what people are proposing. Oh. I guess to that end, so far I've heard kind of a reworking of the discussion of pedestrian barriers, a recognition of the motion that's happening on the Mountain View Drive pedestrian safety issues, and a change in the reference from cheese grater to something else. And possibly some more clarity on the importance of the issue of timing for the Ingrid Gamble couplet. Are those kind of the changes that I've heard discussed so far?
This is Nancy. I would also, in the last section of the letter, ask for some clarification on the chief engineer's lane directive, so that what you want is the specific analyses for those projects, and then whose website are you asking for it to be posted on?
Okay. A question on that for Aaron. Where would we be expected to find the lane reduction analysis that has been performed? If it were to be posted, where would we want to see it?
Did you see the link that was dropped into the chat? Just making sure that it wasn't.
Oh,
Yeah, that's the link to the directives themselves, but I didn't see any of the actual analyses that were done. I don't know, actually. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that would be something we as AMATs would post on our website. It should be on the DOT's website. So we can maybe leave it more generic and say it should be posted on a website for the public to access, and then leave it up to the groups to figure out.
Great. I think that makes sense. Okay. I am furiously typing, and I guess just because we're not in the room together, like I'm gathering all of these amendments up to just propose a single amendment. Should I just put them in the chat or send them by email? What's kind of the best way to get that in everybody's hands right now?
Uh-huh.
I think
This,
through the chair, if they could be verbalized one by one, I can amend a document after this meeting, but everybody needs to be clear on what they are voting for. So if you could go one by one and say what you're going to change it to, we could approve the letter as amended.
all right.
And SJ, just mentioning that cheese grater language, what I had, so what does it say? It should be a welcoming corridor rather than erecting a concrete barrier and cheese grater that creates a hostile environment for pedestrians. So what I listed here was the CAC encourages treatments that maintain Fifth Avenue as a safe and welcoming corridor while improving pedestrian comfort, visibility, and access across the roadway.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Okay. So I think I'm ready here. So I will make a motion to amend the letter with the following items. The first item will be to change in the paragraph that mentions cheese graters. And Matt, will you repeat what you just said?
So replace, it should be a welcoming corridor rather than erecting a concrete barrier and cheese grater that creates a hostile environment for pedestrians, with the CAC encourages treatments that maintain Fifth Avenue as a safe and welcoming corridor while improving pedestrian comfort, visibility, and access across the roadway.
Great, thank you. The second amendment that I'm proposing is in the following paragraph. I would propose that we replace that entire paragraph with the following. The CAC opposes the use of pedestrian barriers as a first solution to pedestrian safety in heavily pedestrian dense urban areas. The barrier at Minnesota Drive was proposed to stop pedestrians from crossing the road and improve pedestrian safety. As we have had two pedestrian deaths in 2025, this clearly has not had the intended impact, period. We believe increased pedestrian crossings and safer, more accessible crossings will better result in the intended outcomes of the HSIP. We believe making it more difficult to cross will not help pedestrian safety in the area. Do I need, and I guess I'm wondering if I should add an action item there or not, but I think that's fine. Third issue would be after the period or after the bullet point for Mountain View Drive safety improvements, just add the CAC recognizes the work that is being done, comma, and encourages continued investment in this project, period. And then the fourth change, the fourth amendment that or part of this amendment would be the DOT should also make the chief engineer's lane directive analysis of lane reductions public. I believe, does that cover it? Dan or Nancy, did you have a better way of kind of stating that?
So Christine put her, Aaron?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the Mountain View Drive bullet should actually just be moved out, because the that section right there says that DOT needs to fund the lane drop projects that previously programmed in the HSIP plan, which are now anticipated for FY27. Mountain View Drive is underway. It doesn't have any funding shown in the tip for 27. So
Okay.
it's confusing having
Okay,
it in
then,
there.
yeah.
So it should be its
All right,
own
I guess
thing.
my apologies then. Yeah, I would just say then I'll change that the third amendment to just say the CAC recognizes and encourages the Mountain View Drive safety improvements to continue. And that'll be a separate line after the bullet points. And then the last thing would be DOT or CAC requests that DOTPF make the lane reduction analyses conducted for the above projects public. Just full stop. I think that covers it. Yeah, so I'll put that out as the amendment and yeah, take a second if someone.
Aaron had suggested that in the first paragraph of the second page that we really didn't need the first sentence, and all we needed was here are some comments from the CAC based on the DOTPUF's revised HSIP plan from January 2026.
Okay, sure. Okay, then that's a fifth part of my amendment that I'll put forward, which is that everything up to like from the AMATS work session on HSIP projects, to where it says the DOTPF, we will delete everything up to DOTPF, and we can write in its place the CAC therefore submits the following comment on, and then DOTPF's revised HSIP plan from January 2026.
Is that the final specific item you wanted to change, SJ, just before I get a second?
I think so, and I hope I didn't butcher kind of everyone else's thoughts too badly.
Okay, so do we have a second for the amendment?
Bob French, I'll move to second.
Okay, so now we are in discussion for the amendment. Is there any member that wishes to comment on the amended items that SJ went over? Hearing none, are there any objections to approving the amendment?
Just a quick point of order. I think you need to also ask if there are any comments from the public or no.
Nope.
Are we beyond
unless
public
Aaron's,
comment? Okay, great.
That was Aaron's point, is once we're in an actionable and a motion, it's committee members only. And so we were trying to, before we take a motion and put it on the floor, we would give the opportunity with the general discussion.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So am I hearing any objections to approving the amendment? Hearing no objections, the amendment is approved, and we are now on the main motion as amended. Chuck?
Yeah, it's the Department of Transportation and PF needs to fund the lane drop projects. Just as a general, we need good, efficient movement of vehicle traffic to and from the Seward Highway to the Glen Highway, and that the lane reductions is going to impede the efficient flow of traffic. And until there is a project that enhances that connection, we should not be reducing the lanes at this time. So I guess as a general, I'll be voting against the letter. So my comments.
Thank you, Chuck. SJ?
Hi, thank you. I wouldn't, if I may respond to that, I wholeheartedly disagree with that analysis, both in the Gamble Street redevelopment project where we hired Kittleson to do a lane reduction analysis of traffic flow, which proved that all of the inputs into Gamble Street, at least, I didn't see one for Ingra, demonstrated that there's enough capacity in 3 lanes to handle all of the inputs onto that road. And then I'm assuming also in the analysis that has not been made public for these lane reduction that are, which is outlined in our letter. I haven't seen anything to demonstrate that there is not enough capacity to handle it. Both the Pell, the Seward Glen Pell's analysis as well demonstrated that lane reductions can happen now without negatively impacting traffic flows. So yeah, I completely disagree with Bob's premise. And I think I've got data to demonstrate that I'm right. So, and yeah, if these lane reduction analyses had been made public, we'd have a better idea of whether or not kind of the other work that's been done is correct. But all the work done so far, both by the Seward Glen Pell and by the Gamble Street redevelopment project, have demonstrated that there would be no impact, like outside of maybe a 30-second delay in traffic at peak flows coming in on, I believe, 5th and 6th, and 5th and 6th aren't even part of the projects that are considered in this letter. So I will be voting for this letter.
Okay. Do we have any other committee member comments? I guess and maybe I'm misunderstanding SJ. I guess my biggest thing is the barricades. And what is the technical name of them?
They're called
Barriers?
in the on the HSIP, they're pedestrian barriers, and the
Barriers.
issue there really is that the proposed barrier goes from Carluck all the way to let's see, I believe it's all the way to, it's either Reeve or, I mean, it's a really long way that we're expecting people to walk if they need to get across. I mean, the fact that there's not more crossings that are safe is really the, kind of what the issue is. And what I've in my experience with this population, especially that are crossing in that area, they're trying to get to like the convenience store across the street from, basically there's a homeless encampment there, and kind of having a barrier there is probably gonna just result in more people trying to find ways through it, which means more people kind of on the street for longer. I just don't believe like a real analysis of the pedestrian use was factored into the design of that project. And I mean, I'd put that in my comments on the HSIP, or on the actual project itself, but
I guess my only
it just
concern
strikes
is there, there's we have an issue with people crossing across, and additional walkways would improve the overall situation. But the barriers are meant to mitigate for people crossing over wherever. Are they perfect? Are they ugly? Yes, but they're still meant to mitigate, and they agreed they probably don't, of course they don't solve everything, but it's still some level of mitigating, because even if we had walkways, additional places, which would help definitely improve the issue, I still think it's likely that people are going to cross wherever they can at the easiest spot. So I guess that's my one concern, is I don't think it's the sole solution by any means, but I definitely think we are trying to mitigate a problem that has no good solutions. And I hate to take such a hard position on the barriers right there. And I know they're not very effective.
I appreciate that, Matt. And I believe I've often, I mean, the way I wrote it was the CAC opposes the use of pedestrian barriers as a first solution to pedestrian safety. I mean, basically I've been on the project website for the 5th and 6th pedestrian barriers, and I didn't see anything in there about increasing lane crossing or increasing crossings. You know, I mean, I don't believe it was ever considered. And I guess that's really kind of the issue that I'm taking up is like their first answer is, oh, we need an aggressive pedestrian barrier. And so, yeah, I believe the wording really kind of achieves that compromise, but you know, I'm open to alternative wording if you want.
It's definitely stronger language. It was definitely, I do appreciate the amended language. Just to keep things moving, I know are there any other, Nancy? For you?
Well, I would
Or was
just
that
say,
picking up?
I think that I think the language is appropriate. It wouldn't mean that there wouldn't be any pedestrian barriers, but if they are, you know, first we're looking at how do we get people safely across, and then how do we keep them from unsafely crossing. I think we've achieved that with the language.
Perfect. Any other comments? Okay. Do a roll call. So hopefully don't mess this up. John? John,
Yay.
you support? Perfect. Bob?
Support.
Chuck?
Oppose.
Nancy?
Support.
Diana?
In favor.
SJ?
I'm in favor.
Oppose? Motion carries. Okay, thank you, everyone.
You forgot
So
a few
next-
people, Matt.
Oh, I did. Man, I marked people gone right. Okay, so did I have, I'm looking at my did Kathleen join us?
Yes, she's here.
Yes.
My apologies, Kathleen. I made a little note when we were going through the agenda and I forgot to update it so my apologies. How do you vote, Kathleen?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Was
And
there
Dave
anybody else I
Weathers.
missed? Perfect. Dave?
Dave, yes.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, the motion carries. We'll move to item 6, informational items, and we'll start with Tudor Road Exchange presentation.
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Go back to the first slide here. All right. How are we looking? Can we all see the title slide there?
Looks
Yep.
great.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so my name is Galen Jones. Good evening, everybody. I'm with the Alaska Department of Transportation, and joining me is Steve Noble, who's the project manager from Dowell, who's been hired by the department to perform design, environmental, and public involvement services for the project. Today, we'll provide a brief update on the Tudor Road Interchange project. We'll talk about existing issues, public feedback, and the proposed preferred alternative that we're going to advance into the environmental document. So I'll start with the project area here. We're showing the interchange location, which is at the Seward Highway and Tudor Road. It's one of the busiest corridors in Anchorage and the state, serving both regional and local travel. And you'll notice nearby we have a lot of parks and other sort of community resources, trails. We got Fish Creek going through there, but really most notable is the Helen Louise McDowell Sanctuary, which is up to the northeast corner of the interchange, shown as number 1. And I don't mean just most important overall, but I mean it's just the closest to the project. So the purpose of the project really is we got 3 sort of main categories here, and we'll start with the bridge. So as the bridge is aging, we're going to replace that. We want to increase the vertical clearance on the bridge or over the highway. That'll mitigate bridge strikes, which we all know this bridge has been hit before. And then we're going to widen the bridge to accommodate the needs of all the different user groups, so vehicles and non-motorized users. And then while doing so, we want to take this opportunity to improve traffic flow, reduce crash risk for everybody, and reduce vehicle queuing. And then in terms of active transportation users, we want to widen and enhance the facilities on the bridge, and we want to improve safety and connectivity down across along Tudor Road over the Seward Highway. So we'll talk about project funding here for a minute. So we got a combination of state and federal funding for the preliminary design and environmental document. It's mostly federal funding, but to get the project started earlier on, we did get a little bit of state funding to get that started. And then future project phases, such as final design, right-of-way acquisition, if it's needed, we're not sure about that yet, utility relocation and construction, those will all be federally funded. So here's the schedule. Right now, we're doing public involvement, and then we're in this preliminary design and environmental stage, the orange line. So, about the first quarter of 2026, we'll wrap that up later this year when we have an approved environmental document, and then we'll move into final design. So that's the red line. And then we'll do environmental permitting and then right-of-way acquisition if that's needed. And also work on utility agreements with utility companies at that time. And then we'll roll into construction, hopefully by summer of 2029. And it should last a couple seasons. So we'll talk a little bit about the existing interchange conditions. So, why are we doing a project here? And then what are the conditions that help inform the decisions we're going to make? So Seward Highway, we got roughly 50,000 vehicles per day, quite a bit. And then on Tudor Road, over 36,000 vehicles per day as well. So quite a bit of traffic, especially compared to other areas in the state and in the city. So it's a pretty old type of interchange that is really not contemporary anymore. It's from the 1970s, and it's a diamond interchange. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's a compressed diamond, which is not a very efficient or common interchange type. And then the non-motorized facilities along the bridge are super narrow. There's no separation between vehicles. Everybody that's crossed this bridge knows that it's not a comfortable crossing. And so that's one of the major things we're going to improve with this project. And then also the crossings across Tudor Road and the ramps can also be challenging. A little bit more background, there was an AMATS corridor study. This established Tudor Road as a major connection in Anchorage. So we all know that. And then Midtown Congestion Relief Pell study in 2020 identified this as one of the most congestion and crash-prone locations in Alaska, and recommended the improvements that we're embarking on now. So the 36th Avenue interchange, which is also a project that's in design, is nearby. We just wanted to let you know we are coordinating the Tudor Road interchange design with the 36th Avenue interchange. So a couple of highlights on how that integrates are shown on this slide. So just wanted to mention that 36th Avenue interchange design does include direct northbound connection between Tudor Road and 36th Avenue. So you won't have to get onto the Seward Highway and then back off. It'll just be that direct connection. And then that project's also proposing non-motorized pathways, so shared use pathways between 36th and Tudor on both sides. Those are shown as the orange lines on the slide. And then currently the design has braided ramps, and they're down near Tudor Road, which means that the Tudor Road ramps on the north side of Tudor Road that go onto the Seward Highway, on and off of the Seward Highway, will go over the 36th Avenue ramps. With a bridge structure. And then just wanted to let you know that the construction for 36 interchanges is anticipated after the Tudor Road interchange is built. So we talked a little bit about how this is a compressed diamond. It's really an old type of design. It was built in the 70s here at this interchange, but it's from the 50s and 60s. It's a medium capacity. The signalized intersections, they're not close enough to really be efficient, and they're not far enough away from each other to be efficient. So they're in this weird, awkward phase, only 475 feet apart. It poses lots of issues. It's difficult to coordinate the signals. The traffic platoons break down and kind of spread out between them, so it makes it less efficient. And then the angles on the ramps can be especially problematic for large trucks. And then we talked about how the overhead clearance is not tall enough over the Seward Highway. So we got active transportation facilities in the area, and here are some considerations. The 36th Avenue interchange is proposing that connection along both sides, which is a much needed network connection. That's in the dashed orange lines there. We talked already about the narrow facilities on the bridge. We got unmarked crosswalks over to the east on near McInnes and Shelikoff Street. That's particularly a large problem because there are bus stops over in the area without adequate facilities, crossing facilities at those locations. We're going to fix up the curb ramps and things like that to meet ADA standards. And then there can be challenging crosswalks. So the safety performance, there have been a number of fatalities and major injuries here, but I just wanted to highlight on this slide that these 3 intersections that we're showing they have assigned crash rates, and they're all at or above the statewide average for their respective types of intersections. So, just highlighting the need for safety improvements here. And then, you can see crash clusters also at McInnes Street and Shelikoff Street. If you can see my mouse, so McInnes and Shelikoff. So a couple of views, just looking at some of the operational issues on Tudor Road at the interchange there. So, a lot of times we'll see queuing that goes through the intersection. It's not really shown here, but a major problem could be queuing that goes through these intersections and then it blocks the other turning movements, and then that just sort of compounds with the congestion. So a little bit about the alternatives analysis. So we looked at 4 different types of interchanges in our alternatives analysis. So there's a single point interchange, the diverging diamond interchange, the displaced left turn interchange, and the last one we'll talk about later, but it's the tight diamond interchange. So it's similar to what's there now, it's just a tighter form. So we did a compatibility assessment. I'm not going to go through every single little one, but we looked at different parameters on the left side and then compared it with each of the interchange forms. And you can see, so blue is optimal, how it performed, and then orange is fair, and red is it performed the lowest in terms of the context of this project. So, as you can see, the tight diamond performed the best overall out of these different interchange forms. But, we looked at maintenance, constructability, compatibility with 36th Avenue interchange, ramp-to-ramp movements, which are important because of the frontage roads and to the south, and then active transportation suitability, how big the footprint was, if it was going to require right-of-way, and then how much capacity it had so we could improve those operations, because traffic has grown substantially since the interchange was built in the 70s. We're not really expecting much growth from now, but it has grown substantially since the interchange was first built. We had an interchange workshop and an open house to present all of these alternatives and gather feedback. So, we talked about the purpose and need, but we got a lot of good feedback. I'm not going to go through every single one, I'm probably getting short on time here, but, just a lot of things we've talked about already in the presentation were brought up by the public and stakeholders here, regarding safety, pedestrian and non-motorized comfort, things like that. So heard a lot about that. So this is the preferred alternative, which is we're advancing into the environmental review stage, and it is the tight diamond. So it's, as you can see, it's similar to what's there now, but we can run the interchange signalization a lot more efficiently. We'll widen the bridge to have a lot wider pedestrian facilities across the bridge, and then make other improvements, for operations and safety as we go. So that's the presentation, and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So just to keep things moving, go ahead, SJ, but I know there's probably a lot of questions for this project right there. If we could limit questions by committee members to the next 5 minutes.
Thank you, Matt. A really quick question, Galen. Thanks. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just a real quick question. I've got a kind of long-term interest in seeing a direct connection between the Seward Highway and International. I've been told by engineers in the past that there's not enough room because of the size of the interchanges at Tudor and at Dowling to kind of fit a connection to International in. And I'm wondering if if this project would have any impact on that, and if you could speak to that at all.
Yeah, no,
If it were to happen.
yeah, that connection it's a really interesting idea, and it probably have a lot of benefits. But I'll just say that this project isn't going to preclude any sort of potential future connection for the Seward Highway to International. And because of the close spacing, you're right, any sort of interchange at where International intersects the frontage road there on the west side would not be able to be, have full access in every direction. So it might be similar to maybe the 76 interchange where or Diamond in Minnesota or 100th in Minnesota, where there's sort of like a split diamond situation where you don't have access in every direction, but so you might have to get off on one of the interchanges to the north and south to then have access. So, but that would all get figured out at the time. But nothing that we're doing here would impact the ability to have the most and best access for a future interchange at International.
Great, thank
Do we
you.
have any other committee members? Do we have any other committee member questions? I was figuring there's gonna be all kinds. Not hearing any. Do we have any members of the public that have any questions? Wow, okay. Galen, you're off the hook.
All right, great. Well, this was great. I really appreciate the time. And if you have any other questions, feel free to follow up or leave us a question on our web or a comment on our website or send us an email.
Perfect. And Galen, just to see all the different proposed interchanges that's on the website, if someone wanted to see the different the feasibilities.
That's a great question. So we're currently wrapping up that alternatives analysis memo. I received a draft and made comments, and Dowell's finalizing that, and we'll post that on the website pretty soon here. I would imagine within the next week or two, that should be up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Okay. And with that, we'll move to 6B, letter from FHWA and letter from Alaska .puff on MPO authority. So if I think I heard context was requesting staff's interpretation of, it was a pretty long and technical letter. It was kind of a staff, what this means or what the interpretation or what implications. I don't know if Christine or Aaron.
Yeah, Nancy can speak to what she wants from staff on this item. I will just correct that the second letter is from Alaska Department of Law, not Department of Transportation.
And you submitted that with, yeah, there was that correction, I do remember.
This is Nancy through the chair. So my understanding is that FHWA has issued an opinion letter that says that AMATS is the final arbiter of projects on the national highway system, or in general, all projects within its MPO boundary. And, I've heard at the recent PC meeting that, DOT disagrees with that. So where does that leave us? What is going to be the process for decisions, final decisions where DOT and AMATS disagree, AMATS Policy Committee disagree?
Well, where that leaves us is just where we're at right now, which is we continue forward with our process as outlined in the federal regulations. So if there is a back and forth between DOT and FHWA on that, we'll just have to wait for that to be finalized, but we're still moving forward with our TIP and our MTP as we are required. So we don't have anything more than the 2 letters that we posted on the agenda.
And DOT presumably can do the same thing, continue with their projects as if they're the final authority. Where does that come to a head with the Safer Seward Highway specifically?
Well, as of right now, that project is not in our MTP. So that's where
Okay.
we're at. If the policy committee would like to change that, it is up to the policy committee to make that determination.
Well, short and sweet. Do we have any other committee members that wish to comment on this one?
This is Bob French. I guess could you say a little bit more about the conflict and that did come up? I'm not sure that I have all of a good understanding of where it is that AMATS and FHWA have, and DOT have, I guess, had differing interpretations of the regulations here.
Aaron, that letter is extremely technical and I would not speak to it. So I think if staff is willing to comment further on clarifying, I think is more the question here. Okay, so staff is not willing to.
Nope. No, I'll just clarify that the issue is not with AMATS, it's between DOT and PF and FHWA. There's some disagreement about who has authority over what. And so that is what they're working through right now.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good read. It's a lot, but it's actually, would recommend all the committee members read it if you have a chance. Nancy, did you have something else?
Well, where does that leave the Safer Seward Highway project? Which still extends from into the AMATS, inside the AMATS boundary, and it's not on the MTP, so AMATS isn't consenting to it, but DOT is still forwarding an environmental assessment that includes that part of the project. Where does it leave that? Does AMATS have any? I guess AMATS isn't going to take any action, as Aaron said, but what if he can tell us anything about where that project stands as a result of this disagreement on authority, I'd like to hear.
Well, as was mentioned at the policy committee for the Safer Seward specifically, right now that project is apparently be considered non-par, which is non-participating. So they don't get federal participation on the funding that they've spent to date until it gets put into the MTP and or TIP. So outside that, I don't have anything else. It would have to be DOT, probably the commissioner's office that would speak on where they're at with that project.
Okay. Thank you.
Some more to come.
That's a big deal. It's a big, expensive deal.
Okay, are there, before we open it to the public? Did I freeze? Did I cut out?
Oh, yeah, I think you cut out, Matt.
My apologies right there. So 2052 update, and I apologize, Christine, if you were talking and I just went over you and couldn't hear anything.
Nope, then we can move on to 6C, and I think we have Rhiannon Brown here who can give you a quick update on the status of that plan.
Perfect.
Yep. Hello, everybody. So quick update for you and a timeline for this update. So since we last met, we are now doing a minor update to this MTP that is due to the federal requirement to have an updated MTP with the approved boundary from the 2020 census by the end of the year. I believe December 28th is the actual date. So that has sped up our process significantly. So with this minor update, we are going to be completing a model run in June with updated socioeconomic information, as well as projects that the MOA, DOT, PF, and AMATs have put are wanting to put into there. We are having a work session in May, the third week of May. The date is yet to be set, but during that work session, the parties involved will decide what projects will go into this update with the available funding. As I think I mentioned in the last meeting that I partook in, this update was keeping the projects in already that were going to be there. So this isn't a huge change to what we were already planning. In June and July, between June and July, we'll have our first workshop. There'll be one public workshop. There will be one held in Anchorage, one held in Eagle River. In August, we'll have our draft plan to the TAC and PC with hopes of releasing that plan for 45-day public comment period in September. The second workshop between Anchorage and Eagle River Chugiak will happen in September. And then the final plan will be taken to the committees in November for approval. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Wow, I'm full on lagging. I don't know what happened, so my apologies, but Rhiannon, you finished up with
Yep, unless anybody has any questions. And I can repeat whatever you heard last.
This is Nancy. You might have mentioned whether there are any public comment periods upcoming, but I didn't hear if you did.
Yes, the plan will be released in September for the public comment period. And then we're going to have 2 workshops for public involvement, one in June or July, and then one in September during that public comment period.
Okay. Great.
Rhiannon, I had a question with just community councils and CIP projects. So I understand we have a large queue of projects that's likely to feed this next MTP amendment. But just question on the community councils, when they submit their CIP projects, do you have any context of it, if there's a workflow or a process that ever puts those projects in the queue?
I can't speak on their end about their process for those actual CIP request nominations. We do get a list from PM&E that has essentially been parsed down to regionally significant projects. And those are going to be part of the discussion in this upcoming work session about what's going to be included. Typically, if they're not being federally funded and they're not regionally significant, we don't need to include them in the MTP. So we'll be working through that for this round.
So it'd be fed to PM&E, and he thinks that there projects that have merit, then they potentially could be added.
Potentially, yes, after discussion of funding and other layers, but yes.
Generally speaking, yeah, there was some comment somebody said about the top 3 community council CIP projects are automatically ranked and scored, and I'd never heard that before, and I just wanted to confirm that yeah. Aaron?
Yeah, for the last MTP update, that's what we do is when we do our nomination process, which is not what we're doing for this go around because of the short timeline. We look for the CIP projects that are on the community council lists, or no, sorry, not CIP projects, but the projects on the community council list, and we take those and include those as part of our process.
Oh, wow.
So that's what we normally do.
Well, that's encouragement for everybody to submit their CIP projects. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Okay. We'll open this up to the public.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I lost the screen. I just wanted to confirm what Aaron said. Not this time around. You will not be pulling projects off of Community Council CIP lists. Is that correct?
No, we're not doing a project nomination process this go around. We have a tight timeline. We have to have this MTP done by December of this year. So it is going to be a much tighter timeline. So we're going to be working off the existing project lists and any new ones that committee members want to add. And by committee members, we say TAC and Policy Committee. Yep.
Great, thank you.
When will the next update be where you do take projects from the community councils?
So going forward, we're actually going to set up, and again, I'm not sure how this is going to work with the CIP and because that's theirs. But we're setting up a rolling call for project nominations. We're working through that right now where we'll have a page or a section on our webpage where people can go interact with a map or write in their suggestions, and we will keep a running tab and list of projects. So when the next update comes around, we will have things to pull from. And so people don't have to panic as well if they miss the period to give a project. So that's the plan going forward.
Please don't forget, Jay Bear, when you do your, instead of, I know you'll go to the city councils, but please don't forget to query Jay Bear. We do have a project that's a real safety hazard.
Okay. Noted. Thank you.
We might have
It
lost
was-
Matt.
Yeah.
John Scudder, do you want to take over as vice chair?
It's back.
Matt's back.
This is SJ. Go ahead. Is Matt back?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, SJ, I don't know what's going on my internet right now. Do you mind just
SJ.
finishing
My
sharing the
apologies.
meeting? SJ, do you mind just finishing up the meeting since my internet seems to be, it's dropped now twice?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Let me pull up.
Awesome, thank you.
Give me one moment, please. Okay, so thank you for that. And we left off. Are we done with committee comments or questions?
So where I think we left off was public comment for funding program tip amendment. I don't know if you guys went over that.
No, we're
Actually,
still
I
in the
don't know.
MTP.
Got it.
All right, so we're on just to make sure we're still on 6C. Okay. And then is there any are there any other commission questions or comments on that? Okay, hearing none. Are there any public comments? Hearing none. Thank you guys for the update. Next issue is the funding tip amendment process. I don't know who wants to take that on.
I think Aaron can speak to that, but we wanted to hear from Nancy. She added this item and what specifically she is asking staff to provide for her, for the committee.
Thank you, Nancy. You have the floor.
Yes, at various TAC or PC meetings that I have listened in on, there's been comment about the bottlenecks in getting projects out actually started. And I remember from one meeting, and I did not go back and listen to the minutes, but from one meeting, Aaron mentioned that, there was a growing, I guess you'd say, pool of funds that had not been able to go out. I believe this had happened a couple of quarters or a couple of years in a row. And so I wanted to hear, just as a general point of information, a little bit more about what is happening, whether there are bottlenecks that are causing projects funds to go unspent and to roll forward. And then if there is this pool of money, what is the process for reallocating it? And how can the public be effectively involved? Because I don't know, when these TIP amendments are going to come up, and then I have trouble getting community council attention on them. In fact, the community councils that I'm not a member of in my district seem to show no interest at all. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out those things. Is there a pool of money that's accumulating because it can't be spent on time? And then does this precipitate amendments? And if we're into a lot of amendments, how can the public be more effectively apprised and involved in commenting on those?
Great, thank you, Nancy. Aaron, do you want to address that?
So we have one amendment a year for the TIP, and it goes out for public comment starting in January. That is our schedule. Staff starts working on it in October. It comes before the committees in December for release, and it'll go out for public comment starting in January. In terms of the pool of funding that's available, yes, there is funding that is carried forward from year to year due to project slips that are happening. The projects are slipping and have been for a couple of years now. And a lot of that is due to the limited staffing at the Department of Transportation. Department of Transportation is required to do all of these projects through the process. And so we're dependent upon them to keep them moving forward. There are efforts underway right now to try and get stuff moving forward by having the municipality take over some of the projects and helping with that process, but that is still underway right now. In terms of getting the funding reallocated, that is the decision that's made by the Technical Advisory Committee and Policy Committee through the TIP amendment or admin mod process. And typically it's staff's recommendation that comes forward based on the needs for existing projects. And if there are new projects that need to be added to help fill in that gap, then we bring those forward as part of the amendment process. So the public can be involved when we put it out for public comment, or when we bring it forward to the committees individually.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Aaron? Okay, I guess I don't hear any. I would note that, we do find ourselves as commission members always thinking that a project should be added to the TIP. And that, kind of like this process is really, there's always the question of what do you want to remove in order to add your project. And so this is kind of the process that we can get in there with. But thank you, Aaron. And thank you, Nancy, for bringing that forward. Next issue, we're on 6E, coordination between AMATs and the MOA on infrastructure funding. Who came forward with that issue? I guess there's a resolution in front of the assembly. Okay, great. Nancy, do you want to take that on?
Yeah, this resulted from my awareness of a last minute laid on the table Assembly Resolution 2026-0080, I believe it was. It was a request to the legislature from the Assembly for $30 million in infrastructure funding intended to accelerate residential development. And it didn't pertain, it didn't specify, it mentioned in the body of the resolution a couple of projects, and I can't remember exactly what they were, but then attached was a list of about 5 or 6 projects divided up by assembly district. And in looking at them, it occurred to me that they don't follow the municipal priority for infill and redevelopment and for transportation efficiency. For example, in my district, which I'm most familiar with, it mentioned two big parcels, like 140 acres in Bear Valley, and some smaller parcel, like, I don't know, 30 acres or something like that in Upper Potter Valley. And if you're familiar with this end of town, those are really far flung, and it would take, I don't know, if you put in subdivision roads for those parcels, you still have several miles of substandard steep dirt roads or roads with no shoulders. It just puts, and then, Rabbit Creek isn't going to be updated until after 31 because it's in the illustrative. It just makes no sense to me that, the muni might get funding for infrastructure in places where it would put a lot of pressure on other parts of the transportation infrastructure. So my question is AMATS giving any input to the assembly and trying to ensure, efficient, multimodal, safety-oriented investments, or not? And if not, then, it's not too late. The money hasn't been approved yet. But I'm just wondering, it seems like AMATS should be involved in this if there's a potential windfall.
Great, thanks, Nancy. It sounds like a question you're asking to staff. I see Matt's got his hand up first, so I'm going to let Matt.
I was just going to say move to extend till 10 past. We're coming up on 7 o'clock.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Nancy seconds. Is there any opposition to extending the meeting 10 minutes? Hearing none. Okay, thank you, Matt. Aaron, do you or Christine want to address Nancy's question?
Yeah, so no, AMATS has not provided any input to this. AMATS has not been coordinated with on this, and it's mostly focused on the housing aspect of things and for like utilities and other things, I believe. So I don't have anything for you. I would recommend that if you have questions or comments about it, that you reach out to the project sponsor, who I think was the chair of the assembly, Chair Constant.
Well,
great, thank you. And I would point out too that Chair Constant is done as of like 9 o'clock this evening. So let's see here. Getting back, do we need to give? Is there any members of the other members of the community or of the commission that wish to speak to this issue? Okay, hearing none, are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this issue? And hearing none, great. We're open to section 7 committee comments. Anyone have anything they want to bring up that we haven't covered so far? And Matt, if your internet's back, I'd be more than thrilled for you to take back over. So
it's weird, right? When I passed it on, my internet started working great, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to say anything. I'm just going to jinx it. Yep. So no, you did a great job. Committee comments. I think we talked about a couple of items that are going to be upcoming. Is there anything else? This would be a great time to bring up. Not hearing any. So we'll move to public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to address the board? Not hearing any. Can I get a motion to sorry.
Before you adjourn, I was just to note your next committee meeting is July 28th. And I believe in January, you guys talked about maybe wanting to have one where in-person was an option. So one a year. I could try to make that one, make the room available on that one if you would like. I was going to maybe just make that a hybrid meeting and try to get I believe we can still be in that room after hours. We just have to set something up with security. If the committee
be
still
amazing.
is interested in that.
Yeah, I think that would be at least once a year right there. Actually, I was just talking about that today. Wasn't sure if we were going to be actually doing that or not. So that's really cool to hear you say that. And Christine, so after this meeting, the workflow will be sent out and some type of notice about bylaws will be sent out.
Yeah,
Just to get all that
for sometime between now and your next meeting, you could either start reviewing them, but if you want to wait for our notes on it, I will compile some things and send it out for review well before your next meeting.
Perfect. So July 28th. Okay, and with
Yeah,
that,
quick question, if I may, through the chair.
yeah, go ahead.
Could maybe Christine could send out a poll and see how many people would be likely to be in town on, just summers are busy. So would July or would our fall meeting be more likely for in-person attendance? Might be worth asking.
I can do that.
And also just thank you to the AMATS staff for their role in the transportation fair last week, which was a huge and energizing, I think, event. So thanks for making it exciting for people to learn about transportation.
Very cool. Always good to recognize staff. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
adjourn.
Nancy.
Oh man, I can think we can safely say we're adjourned. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Everyone, thanks.
Thank you.